The day Gen Z got cursed.
January 26th, 2020 was the day everything seemed to change for the worse. It also happened to be my 15th birthday. I can't seem to remember much about the day other than the fact that I was scrambling to finish my science fair project for school. And oh yeah, one of my childhood heroes died in a helicopter crash with his daughter.
Wow.
I can still feel the shock of my
That was
brother
5 years. It was over 5 years ago.
texting me RIP Kobe and the subsequent Google search confirming the news. My family was never big on birthday celebrations, so I didn't have a big party to look forward to, spending much of the day coming to grips with his passing. It was the first time a celebrity death seemed to have any real impact on my emotional state. I wasn't immediately overwhelmed by grief or sadness. Honestly, after I got the news, everything just felt off. I felt a deep pit in my stomach that persisted for the rest of the day, and I had trouble focusing on my science project. Unfortunately, this feeling did not subside, and the coming week, I was filled with a similar strange pit in my stomach,
Oh my God, for COVID.
as well as a more bleak outlook on life. The first semester of 9th grade, I had a blast. Starting high school, making friends, it was a time of much optimism. But after
Oh, the dog filter.
Kobe passed, it felt like the joy in the world went with him. A month later, we all know what happened. All of a sudden, we were stuck inside. I'd made great strides to socialize and make friends my freshman year, and now the only communication I could have with them was over Discord.
I really think that era, and I hated when people tried to talk about how COVID life was I even did it before, admittedly. But I hated when people would talk about how weird COVID life was in like a past tense sense when we were actively living in COVID times. I think COVID really, that era ended like late 2021. I remember I still wore a mask, but I was returned to college for the first semester of fall of 2021. That was a weird era though. Like a blurb. Do you guys remember a lot from that time? I think it was a blurb for everybody because those days dragged by. I remember and it really makes you understand, like, time flies when you're having fun, but you remember a lot more from good experiences. It was boring as fuck. Sitting at home all day, doing class, and then playing. It was fun for like the first month. You remember when we all thought it was just going to go away? Because when did you guys get out of school? Mine was like March in New Jersey. It was like early March. We had off for something, and then it was like then on. I remember being at work and in school my senior year of high school talking about COVID and me going, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Like openly saying it doesn't matter. Like it's not. I just thought it was like the flu. Because you know how the media overhypes a lot of shit? I thought it was going to be like that. And then I like knew people that got it, and then their family members got it. And for the most part, I would say, basically everybody that got it was okay. But people died. Like I knew people that died. Like, and people that knew people that died. Like I had friends, family members that were like serial cigarette smokers die at like 50 from having bad lungs and like getting COVID, and there was nothing they could do. And it was such a weird time. Do y'all remember, okay, this depends on the state that you were in, but I would say most states were kind of like this experience. Do y'all remember going out for the first time mid-COVID? I'm talking like April, May of 2020, when it was like peak COVID cases. Everybody was worried. I went to the grocery store, and I remember wearing a mask, and that was it. And there were people in fucking hazmat suits. I'm so serious. I remember there being no toilet paper on the walls, or no toilet paper. If you didn't have toilet paper, you were just fucked. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer, like any like regular ass shit. I remember I was wiping my ass with paper towels for like a good week. We would order, you couldn't order toilet paper online. You couldn't fucking get it at the grocery store. There was nothing, bro. It was just fucking, it was such a weird, and I feel like now it's been long enough to where, like, dude, that was 5 fucking years ago. We could talk about it now. I just hated when people were like, it was like 2022, and we would all be like, oh yeah, COVID days. Like that shit wasn't 6 months ago. The whole freshman year of college, though, I had online. And a lot of people were the same. Like, did you guys have a 2020 to 2021 school year in person? I feel like most states, and even most cities and countries for that matter, outside of the US, you probably, like, maybe hybrid, but for the most part, fully online. My freshman year, 2020 to 2021 of college, was fully online. I did not go to campus once outside of getting my student ID. And that was it. And I didn't even use it. So I don't even know why I went. I think it was just like a requirement that we had to do. And I can tell you right now, no change happened for anybody then. And it was such a shit time. Like, a lot of you guys were probably going into high school during COVID or even graduating. And those were like the worst times to be in COVID because they're like monumental areas where you're supposed to change as an individual. And everybody was just so delayed. And I think that's part of the problem today with like youth in general is that everybody's like a 2-year lag behind maturity wise to where everybody acts like they're a fucking kid, bro. Like that, I think social media plays a part, but COVID fucked a lot of people growing up to where they're just at a disadvantage. Like they act like they're like 15, they act like they're 12. And so they're just years behind. Like coming from personal experience, I did not change mentally at all from senior year to freshman year in college. And then right when I got back and I started taking classes in person and I started being like an actual human in society, it like clicks. And you're like, okay, I have to actually grow up. But it was so weird in that time. I remember even hanging out with my friends. I was nervous. I remember it was probably like June or July, and it was midsummer, and you're used to like hanging out with your friends. Do y'all remember, like, what did you do that summer, chat? Obviously, end of school year, online, school year after that, online. What'd you do that summer? I fucking played video games and went on a bike ride every day, and then that was it. The only other thing that I remember doing was I would get in my car and drive to an open parking lot to watch the sunset alone every day. And it was so depressing, bro.
The rest of 2020 and 2021 ended up being the worst time of my life.
2021 was a worse year than 2020 because it was just dragging. So 2020 was fine because the first 3 months, there was no COVID. And then the first 3 months of COVID, it was just like, no school, yeah! And you just would fuck around in Zoom class and play video games. And it was also peak, like still good Fortnite. That was fire. And then 2021 hit. It was the new year, and we're still in fucking quarantine. That shit was terrible. Gyms still weren't open. Nothing was fucking open. You're just sitting there literally doing nothing. Brain rot.
Not because I remember it.
Oh, and Among Us carried too. Among Us and Fall Guys dual drop 2020.
As particularly bad, but because I can hardly remember it at all. I can't recall any significant memories from that time of my life other than
Among Us, Lil Nas streaming, The Queen didn't die in 2020. Oh, early 2020s. When did she die? Like 22? Joe Biden, Mr. Beast. Did Mr. Beast do videos during COVID?
Of my life other than Zoom classes and watching movies in my bedroom. The isolation got to me.
Bro, I learned nothing. I cheated on everything in that time. I remember I took my AP test online, and that shit was so scary because you couldn't cheat on that, and I had no knowledge from the fucking latter half of AP Bio. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck am I doing right now? Just guessing on everything. Didn't care. Literally did not care. Do you miss school? I was going to say, I talked to my friend about this the other day. I have basically been out of college for almost a year. It hasn't even been a year yet. I was in college a year ago. It feels like I was in college 5 years ago. When you're out, you're out. Like, I was out, and for about 2-3 months, I was in that funk where I was like, I'm not going back, and now it's just done. I don't miss it. This is what I miss. I miss class. I loved class in college, not high school. I don't miss high school at all. Fuck high school. Fuck that shit. The era of high school and being a kid was fun. High school class was shit. Having 8 classes at once and having to study for all of them, oh, that was fucking terrible. I hated every second of it. What I will say, though, college class was awesome. Going to college class and fucking sitting in and just talking about philosophy and stuff, fun as hell. Homework, ass. Writing papers, ass. Forced reading, ass. If I could go back to college, just sit in the class, never take a test, and dip, that would be awesome. Like, people that sit in at classes, like old people that do that and they pay to, like, see one class, that's cool. But the rest of it's horrible, because that's when it becomes a job.
Because of the media I consumed: BoJack Horseman, Blue is the Warmest Color, Manchester by the Sea, Requiem for a Dream.
Nope. I remember BoJack, nothing else.
Black Swan, Perfect Blue, Archie's Final Project.
Nope.
All of these are...
Nope. Yo, I can tell you right now, me and you had 2 different COVID experiences, brother. I was not watching any of these fucking shows. Are these movies? I don't know. I watched BoJack Horseman. That was about it. What the fuck did you guys... I don't remember what I did during COVID. Like entertainment-wise. Movies? I don't even remember what I watched. I feel like I just played fucking Fortnite all day. All day. I played Fortnite. Fortnite, I never watched anime. Maybe YouTube. And then what else did I fucking do? Be a bum. Literally sit and do nothing.
great pieces
Class.
of art,
And then I got into streaming later on, but that was like way down the line.
but were terrible picks for an isolated high schooler who was still trying to figure out life. Eventually, we got back to the outside world, but nothing was the same. The youthful optimism and wide-eyed...
I don't miss that smell of a mask, like a reusable mask. You remember that smell? Where it would be a mask you wore for like a week straight, and it would be your own scent, but it would just be like that. Like, you're smelling your own breath, like, all day. That was so ass. Having to just fucking sit there, like... And it would, like, puff. The mask would, like, puff in and puff out. It would get moist. Ugh.
curiosity I possessed before had left me.
Dude, working out at the gym with a mask on was the worst fucking experience ever. That shit sucked.
My hatred for school grew exponentially, but I also had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, which created this self-fulfilling loop of misery. The rest of high school was a slog, a never-ending cycle of tests, essays, and a deep longing for more from life. I just wish I could go back to that first semester of 9th grade and stay there forever. But...
Well, I think it was also an era where you could be lazy as fuck and it wasn't bad. And so it normalized everybody wanting to just like chill at home and do nothing. And now anything else seemed worse in like perspective.
Time waits for no man, and every year that passes, that 14-year-old that I once knew grows farther and farther out of reach, and the pressures of growing up mount ever heavier. I used to make fun of millennials a lot. I would make the same tired jokes about them being the participation trophy generation and how
Oh, I hate participation trophies. Oh, I'll agree there. I personally think, hey, that's one take. I don't know if a lot of people agree with that or not. I fucking hate the idea of a participation trophy. If you're not, I ran track in high school, and I didn't even like the idea of like 5th and 6th place medals. I don't want a fucking medal. 1st, 2nd, 3rd. That's it. I remember field day, and they would hand out participation trophies. Chuck those in the goddamn garbage, okay? Because, like, I understand it's the mindset of, like, oh, everybody has to be, you know, on even terms, and it's, like, okay if you didn't win. Yeah, sure, it's okay if you didn't win. But now, like, giving out medals to everybody ruins the achievement of the person that got 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Like, if you did a race and it was 8 people in a race and everyone gets a trophy, what's the fucking point in getting 1st place anymore? There's no motivation to actually try and win. I mean, I don't know. If your kid wants a participation trophy, your kid wants a fucking participation trophy. You know, whatever. But when I was a kid and I got a participation trophy when I did not get first, second, or third, it made me mad. I did not want it. I would rather have nothing.
They're more special than they actually are. But I no longer make these jokes because at least millennials seem to have purpose. Gen Z, by stark contrast, is clinically meandering, too afraid to
I don't know. I think part of the problem with millennial cringe is the idea of holding on to being a kid. And I think you want to have that kid aspect of yourself and that enjoyment of life and that new experience day to day, because you don't want to leave that when you grow up. But at the same time, it's like the shit you see on social media where people get like attached. Like you see a lot of millennials, and I'm not doing a blanketed statement about millennials in general. I'm just saying what I see on social media, where there's like a few people that are, you know, in their 30s and they're like obsessed with something that was nostalgic to them. I don't want to say like Disney adults, but something on the same level where it's like they care so much about something, and it's whatever, care about what you want to care about. But like you could tell they hold on to it, not because they actually enjoy it that much, but because it reminds them of when they were 6.
Publicly care about anything, yet secretly overly concerned with everything.
The elder millennial, I hate that meme. I hate that meme. That shit's so cringy. Where they're all saying their age and they're on like, I think it's like roller hockey, or they play like some sort of roller skating shit. 35, 39, elder millennial. Just say how old you are. Elder millennial. 40.
32, 33, 35, 35, 35, 38, 39, 40. Elder millennial. Elder millennial.
Millennials think they can make a difference. We know that we can't, so we don't even try, unless it's by damaging property or getting engagement on social media. Growing up was a lie for Gen Z. It wasn't Zac Efron dancing and playing basketball. It was 8 hours of Zoom classes for a year.
Okay, but nobody was growing up with Zac Efron playing. That was not a real high school experience.
Well, it was 8 hours of Zoom classes for a year and masks for another. We don't want to have fun. We just want everyone to think that we are. Reality is artificial, authenticity is scarce, everything now is aura farming, nonchalant slop. If I talk to a Gen Z woman, 50% of the time I'll be subjected to incoherent word vomit about how all her friends are fake and how she needs to post again. If I talk to a Gen Z guy, 50% of the time it'll turn into a subtle contest to assert dominance and prove that you get more women, make more money, and have more fun than he does. If you try to be interested in something, you're corny and trying too hard. If someone makes you mad, you got rage baited.
But why did COVID make that happen? Because we all just became chronically online for a period of time and you get obsessed with other people's lives. I would assume that's it. Like social media usage spiked, and then everybody's association with their own personal self relied on how they're perceived by other people more because they were on social media more just like everybody else. And so then you're fucking just stuck in this cyclical loop of needing to feel like you're promoting your life the best, even though behind the scenes it's not nearly as good. I always say that shit too. If it looks like your friends are having fun on Instagram, that's good and all, but don't fucking sit there and be like, oh, their life's so much better than mine, because I guarantee you they're going through some bullshit. You just don't post about it because you're not going to air out every bad thing that's ever fucking happened.
If you keep up with the news, you
post the good shit on social media because that's what you want to look back to personally, and it's also what you want to show to other people.
Anxious. If you don't keep up with the news, you become isolated. It feels like nothing really matters anymore. I still feel the age I was in 2020. I don't. I did for like maybe a year or two. I think like 18 to 20 was a weird time in my age, but I think that's also a weird time in general. I will say it is hard for me to look back and go 2016 was 9 years ago, because there is like a level of me that's stuck in 2020 where like if you say 2016, I go, oh yeah, that was like 4 years ago. But no, that was 9. Like 2020 we're closer to 2016 is closer to 2020 than we are to 2020.
Like, that's how fucking nuts that is. Like, we're closer to 2030 now, actually, than 2020.
Massive events pass by like they're nothing. Time is running at 2 times speed, and adulthood is not what you thought it would be. I feel like we currently occupy an alternate reality and the timeline split, like we're in a Black Mirror episode warning us of the negative effects of a prolonged period of societal isolation. Sometimes when I'm sitting alone, I imagine myself going back to January 25th, 2020, the night LeBron passed Kobe on the all-time scorers list, and I could just warn him that I could prevent the imminent tragedy from happening. I didn't realize what Kobe Bryant meant to me until he was gone. You see, I grew up a Dallas Mavericks fan, so I spent my entire childhood rooting against Kobe whenever he'd play my team. It wasn't until his retirement that I found myself watching all of his interviews and falling in love with his mindset and approach to life. He represented everything that I aspired to be like: driven, obsessive, thoughtful, curious, a man who spoke through his actions, and he will forever have a special place in my memory because of that. I'm writing this at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep and want to put this restlessness to use, but really, I guess this is more so just a message to myself. Maybe the timeline did split. Maybe this is the darkest timeline. Maybe growing up is not what you thought it would be. So what? Make it count while you're here.
I think that's really what it is. You grow up assuming that life is going to be laid out a specific way, and I think COVID really fucked that up for a lot of people more than it naturally would be. Say COVID didn't happen. You probably still wouldn't be where you thought you would have been, but it would have diverted not as much. You would have been slightly different from your general, 5-year plan, right? But as you age, and I'm just going to say this coming from somebody that's 23, for a lot of my audience that's like, late high school. 5 years from now, you're going to look back at the you that is sitting right here, and you're not going to be doing anything that you fucking thought you would be doing. Maybe a few of you will, stick to it. And yeah, sure, you might go to college for a specific major and end up graduating with it and never change your major and end up getting the job in that realm. But I can tell you right now, you're probably going to be with somebody that you didn't think you'd be with. You might be dating somebody you didn't think you would be with. You might break up with somebody that you didn't think you'd break up with. You might be picking up a new hobby, having a new sport, having a new mindset, having a different political or religious perspective, and you'll have had no idea of that matter. And I think people have too much of a want of control in their life. They want to feel like they're able to do everything. And that's also why death is scary, because it's one of the things that you can't control. And COVID also brought that out. But I think a lot of people are upset about it, and so they choose to do nothing rather than just go with it. And that goes back to the idea of Amor Fati, exclamation point merch. Love of fate, You can't control a lot of shit in your life. Fucking deal with the shit as it comes. Go from there. It's easier said than done, but it's all you could really do at the end of the day. Next fucking video. Oh, God.